Okay, so once you're ready to move your animated loops to Premiere, I'll just walk you through the steps to kind of export this out of Photoshop. There's other videos I've made that walk you through this too, but just as a reminder, you once you're all ready to go and you want to export this chunk out, again, you just go over here to File, or sorry, make sure you're in Photoshop, right? And then you want to go over here to File, um, export, and you want to go down here to the one that says render video. So we just want to export this out. So we're going to take our Photoshop um, like image, and we're going to just the video that we made, this sort of animation, we're just going to export this whole thing out as one video chunk. So it's just going to be a video that does whatever you tell it to do. So there's all these options that you can choose for, frame rate. You want to make sure your frame rate matches whatever frame rate you design this in. You could also export out each frame on its own, but I would not mess around with that right now if you're not sure. I like this format called H.264. It's really flexible. I would do that. And then make sure that you just like name it something you can remember. So, loop one, something like that. And then make sure you select the right folder so that you can find it. So again, you can click here and select the folder or the place you want to put it, and then just click render. And this is going to take it. Interesting. Oh, I see why. It's because I have this. I don't know if you can see. I have this set, the size set at custom. I don't need that. So this is good that you're seeing this. We just want to go to something like, probably this one will be fine. It just needs to be 1080p. It could maybe be, this one maybe, yeah, 1280. Just depends on which size you want it to be. I would probably just go ahead and stick with, I would just go ahead and stick with maybe this one. Yeah, and then just click render. So again, it depends on the dimensions that you set your images up in and all that kind of stuff, but it's just going to export this out. So if you run into those like little hiccups like I just did, don't despair about it. It'll be okay. Just kind of click through and see if you can figure out what's holding it up, because I had it set the dimensions, the pixel dimensions to be set to be way too wide. So it's going to take it a second to sort of cook this or bake it, spit this thing out. It'll just take it a minute on my computer. It might take a little bit longer on the computer that you're using. But once that's done, then you want to go ahead and just go ahead and open up Adobe Premiere Pro. So that's a video editing sort of software that we're going to use a lot at the end of the quarter that I'm teaching this class for. But we're going to go really simple, really basic to get this sort of done, right? So when you open up Premiere Pro, you just want to create a new project. You can do that here, or you can go up here and go File, New, and just click on that. And then it says Select Media, create your new project. So you can just go ahead and select that, or you can just click Create, and it'll be a blank. It'll be a blank sort of set of palettes here, right? So there's nothing in here yet. You don't know. It doesn't know what to do because you don't have any files brought in. So what I would do next would just be to go to File, Import, and just go find the assets that you want to bring in, right? And so if I go again to my desktop where I have most of this stuff kept, I would probably bring in the sound file that I'm going to use, right? So I'll import that in. You can see that shows up down here in this thing called a project palette. So it's just a bunch of all your assets will show up here. I would also go ahead and just import the loop that I just made, and so now what the job is going to be to make a new long sequence where you put all 6 of these files together, right? So the easiest way to do that, again, try not to get too confused about all the things that are possible on this in this software. But the simplest way to do it is once you've brought in all of your loops and they'll come in here, I would just probably take, one of them and drop them into and just drag them over here into the timeline, right? And so now you'll see the timeline is shown up. I don't know if you'll be able to hear the sound on that, but the timeline is here, right? And so I can, I can now edit these together. So if this is the first one, I can hit, but then I want to bring in another one. I could just kind of keep looping, keep dragging them in. So I can just drag this next one in and drop it in if I wanted to also. So I can kind of drop this one in here. I can also drop it down. And you'll notice that it gives you the audio. If you imported this with audio with it, then you'll see that waveform show up down here. And if you don't want to deal with that, you can always push this button here that just select the clip and hit the M button. That's mute track. That'll just turn the audio off so that you don't hear it. So now we should just have the video. And then you can go ahead and drop in the full like audio file that you want to like loop with or play with the music with, and make your loops respond to, right? So again, you can use Audition to edit your audio a little bit if you want, or you can do it in here, but it's much the same. You just would kind of drag the audio clips in to the different kind of layers, and then you can go ahead and like just start playing around with them. And so the cool thing about this is that we can actually see this waveform. So if you click on the little in between spaces here and drag them down, you can actually see where the waveforms hit in the sound. And so that can really be helpful for animation, because you can actually see what you're doing as you're moving these clips around, right? So the way that I would probably suggest for a beginner to edit these loops together would just be to like kind of move it along, look at what you got, and see if you can get your animations to hit in the right spots to the audio. Just make something interesting where you strung all 6 of these together. And you'll notice here I have a lot of black space at the end because my video is really short, right? It's only just a frame by frame animation. So what I'm going to want to do now is I'm going to want to cut this up, right? So I'm going to want to start editing the video together, which seems intimidating, but it's really not very hard. There's a bunch of tools right here, and again, we'll go deeper into this later on when we really get into Premiere. But the one you want to watch out for here is the razor blade. And that just basically cuts your timeline up for you. So again, I can zoom in or out by grabbing these little handles and pulling back and forth. So I'll just zoom in a little bit, and if I hit that button there, and then I grab this arrow tool and select the thing I want to delete, and then hit the delete button on the keyboard. Now I've gotten rid of all of that excess, like kind of black, all the black kind of emptiness that I had in there, right? And so now I could do the same thing to this clip up here, just kind of like roll along and get to where I want to cut it, and then just grab that razor blade, make a chop, grab the part I don't want anymore, and delete it, right? So now I'm using some chunks of footage that are a lot easier to manage, right? So I don't have to stress out about all that emptiness. So now I can just like figure out how to edit these together. Do I want space between them? Do I want them to loop? There's a million little things that you can do, but I would suggest that you just kind of keep it simple for this one and just kind of stack up your, you can stack them like this if you want to, where they go between. If you want to give it a little bit of room so there's some black between them, you can do that. But try to make one kind of just presentable video piece that loops all 6 of your animations together alongside the sound. So that's down here, right? And again, you can chop up the sound exactly like we just did the video. So if I need to, edit this a little bit to get it to kind of hit in a spot that I'm actually wanting it to hit, I can actually pull this back, or I can shorten it, just kind of like I do in Photoshop, where I just grab the edge here. Again, make sure you have the selection tool pulled together, and I can just pull this and make that chunk a little shorter, drag it back over here, and anything I don't want I can always select and delete, and then I can zoom in and I can start seeing where certain things happen. So if I know I wanted like this animation to kind of line up with this big peak in the waveform here, I could make sure that I'm doing that and just kind of start pulling things around and making things kind of match up. So there's a lot you can do in Premiere. I don't want to get super into it for now because it can get really overwhelming, but just make something that you can kind of pull together that strings all 6 of those loops together alongside some audio that you've edited together. And again, you can edit the audio up as much as you want. Again, just select the audio file and start chopping, and then you can change that. You can change the settings up here if you want to. You can click on that and go into volume and change the levels. You can keyframe things. There's a lot you can do. A lot of effects here are also the same effects that are in Audition. So, but once that's all done, once you get it done, once it's ready to roll, you can go ahead and just export it out. So we do that much like we did in Photoshop or Audition, where you just go up to File, Export, and I like to use the one that says Media. Just going to click on that, and that's going to bring it up again, the dialog box for the old familiar, you know. Oh, interesting. Okay. So I don't know if you noticed that, but it wasn't going to let me export this out. Like it was all grayed out because I just had one thing selected. So sometimes you got to select off of everything here so it doesn't try to just export one clip. So make sure nothing else is selected. That's good that you saw that. Go up here and go to export again, and that should bring up our old friend Adobe Media Encoder. That gives you an option here. Click on that one, and that'll open that up, which hopefully by now you're kind of getting familiar with it, and it should send it out to be rendered. So you'll notice here, like any of the other things that I've done are still here, and if you're done with them, you can select them and delete them. But then this is the new one. This is what I just made. So again, I can select all the options here. I just tell you stick with H.264. It's much easier. Leave this alone. And then this is where you're going to put it. So just choose a place and a name that makes sense for what you're doing. I'll just put it on the desktop again. And then I'll click Save. Let's see, I'll probably change this just so I don't actually overwrite something I didn't mean to. And then once you get all those settings done and it's ready, you can just click this little green button up here that is the kind of the play button or the start. So it's in the queue right now. Just click that button and it'll render it out. And again, depending on how difficult the rendering is, it'll be shorter or longer. But once that's done, and again, save all your work everywhere, but you should have a final version of it that lives like on your desktop or wherever you decided to put it in your thumb drive, and you should be ready to turn this project in. So just put that up on YouTube or Vimeo like usual and submit the URL, and you're ready to go. And then you can watch this anywhere and add it to your portfolio and all the rest of it. But it's just rendered all that out as one long video string now, instead of being a bunch of separate files. So I hope that all makes sense. Looking forward to seeing what you make. Good luck, and let me know how I can help you.